When it comes to A Thousand Faces, it's a movie that, with having a very small cast and mostly set within a few select locations, can definitely give the type of play vibes which forces you to recognize how important it is to have one on one conversations, especially when you're in a position where you're about to transition to a new chapter in life and need to be held accountable and also kind of work through your stuff a little bit. So, to summarize the film, Lucas and Asha initially were just supposed to hook up and, be on their way. But unfortunately, Lucas has a few struggles, and this is followed by a felon being loose, shooting at cops and whatnot in the area that Asha lives in because she was hosting. And this makes it so an awkward moment that should have led to Lucas leaving with his tail between his legs. It leads to them being stuck together and having the type of conversations that neither one of them were really looking to have, maybe even ready for, but perhaps were needed just at the time that they met. So, get into the review section. When it comes to A Thousand Faces, the first highlight for us is definitely that it gives the vibe of a play. And it should be noted, while other characters may pop in or out, when it comes to A Thousand Faces, it operates like a play because I think the best comparison would be this play that sometimes pops up, especially on the coast. I know I saw in New York. I think it came out in San Francisco years ago, but it's called The Coast Starlight. And while A Thousand Faces has a smaller cast, as you see people who initially are hesitant to share more than just space, have overdue conversations that need to escape their head and be challenged so that they can be executed, you get a sense of why it's so beautiful to see that the way that the writer director's name is Elton Loud. It's beautiful how he decided to craft this intimate, this intimate portrayal of two people who went from potentially just seeing this as a hookup and escape from their lives, which are kind of emotionless at this point, to wanting to have a sense of vulnerability, have a sense of connection again, even if it's kind of a frightening or else ill-timed thing. So, getting to the second highlight, what I also appreciate about this is with that intimacy from this seeming like a play, there's also the development of just getting to know these two people and seeing them go from completely opposite seemingly people to, once you get beyond the surface, realizing that both sides are just looking into a mirror. So it makes it so, though Asha is somebody who believes she's with a man who doesn't love or respect her and is perhaps just invested in her because of time spent and also the look of what the relationship is, that doesn't make it so that you don't see that there's the same situation for Lucas in the fact that his girlfriend seemingly threatens domestic violence when it comes to him, and while she may have strong feelings for him, it doesn't seem like he is able to reciprocate that anymore. And I would even say for both, you see that there's a certain level of comfort regarding what their relationships is, and even though it doesn't give them that fulfillment in terms of love, vulnerability, safety, and emotions and all that, at the same time, there's a certain level of comfort they have learned to have, so that unless they move or like readjust, they're able to deal with it. But I think that in each other as they look and ask questions and even judge each other, rather than it be just a back and forth like an interview or like a simple conversation, it's more so like somebody asking the person in the mirror who may look different but is actually them, the type of questions that need to be asked, the type of accountability that needs to be had. And even though it's not the ideal situation to have these conversations, at the same time, it is like it's like anytime someone gives advice. Most advice people give is something that really they need to necessarily say to themselves more than to the other person. And even if it's good advice that doesn't seem to apply to them, it's usually because something in their life has allowed them to learn this lesson. And when it comes to these two and where they're at in life, it seems they haven't completed their lesson yet. So as they go back and forth with one another, it's kind of reaffirming what they already know they need to do. And in many ways, it just furthers how fated that these two were meant to meet on this night, whether it's because, as Asha believes, it's a religious thing, or Lucas, who seems to be more on the side of coincidence. Overall, when it comes to A Thousand Faces, it is a reminder how many people need to have a heart-to-heart conversation without distractions. Also, It reminds you that as much as growth is an individual's responsibility, it cannot always be a solo journey. You need to see yourself reflected in others to really be able to move on to the next step, to the next chapter, whatever, and effectively move on. But in the hustle and bustle of life, you can know what you need to do, but memory lapses can have it where you can forget what triggered the need to do it, if that makes sense. But with being seen, heard, felt to a point, you can see through Ash and Lucas they got what they needed from an unlikely person, and maybe they may not be meant just to be a lesson for each other, but a reward for finally doing what they long knew had to be done.